All over the world, cannabis is being legalised. So, will weed be legalised in the UK? Global laws relating to cannabis have been changing a lot recently. In South Africa, Spain, 8 states of the US and Uruguay, cannabis is entirely legal. And in 5 more places, it's legal for personal usage. A number of other places have also legalised cannabis for medical and scientific use. And an even bigger number of places have decriminalised the use of cannabis, leaving a very long list of places where weed is permitted in some form. So what's happening in the UK? In the UK, cannabis is still illegal. Anyone found in possession of cannabis can be subject to up to 5 years in jail, along with an unlimited fine. Supplying or growing weed can also result in a 14-year jail sentence, as well as an unlimited fine. However, that doesn't stop people. The 2015-16 crime survey for England and Wales found that there are about 2.1 million marijuana users in the UK. That might seem like a lot, but it's probably even less than the actual total, as people don't tend to be honest when it comes to breaking the law. What everyone knows is that cannabis is completely illegal in all forms and for all purposes in the UK, but it turns out that's not quite true. There is a legal cannabis-based medicine in the UK called Savitex. The problem is that it's very expensive. So much so that it's not available to people in England and Scotland, as the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence found it not sufficiently effective to justify the price. That is the problem with making drugs based on marijuana. UK law means that there's so many regulations and hoops to jump through that what you end up is a very expensive and not that effective final product. But that doesn't have to be the case. Cannabis can be incredibly effective, as a lot of people in the UK already know. The All-Party Parliamentary Group on Drug Policy Reform reports that tens of thousands of people in the UK already break the law to use cannabis for symptom relief. There's also evidence from a number of peer-reviewed studies that medical marijuana can help sufferers of cancer, epilepsy, glaucoma, HIV/AIDS, multiple sclerosis, as well as helping with pain and inflammation. All over the world, people are able to get cannabis legally for medical purposes. However, in the UK, anyone who possesses cannabis, even for medical conditions, can be arrested. Those people who break the law by taking cannabis as an attempt to cure their pains are pretty safe doing so. In 2015, there were 8,758 alcohol-related deaths in the UK, and 96,000 due to smoking. During that same period, 0 people died as a result of cannabis. Admittedly, you could argue that this is an unfair comparison. You could say that far more people drink alcohol or smoke tobacco than take marijuana in the UK, and you'd be absolutely correct. However, in the US, cannabis is legal in some form in the majority of the states, and in the US there were no deaths due to weed. Legalising weed would also be very good for the UK economy. The right-wing think tank, the Adam Smith Institute, claims that £750 million to £1 billion could be made from cannabis if it was legalised, regulated and taxed by the government. Add to this the savings made in criminal justice. There are currently 1,363 people in prison for cannabis-related crimes. A report in the Institute for Social and Economic Research says that the savings made by reducing police and court costs could be between 100 million and 350 million a year. Those costs relating to keeping marijuana illegal are significant. There's a huge amount of money being spent for almost zero benefit. In fact, major public health groups say that the war on drugs has failed. The Royal Society for Public Health and the Faculty of Public Health have both called for the decriminalisation of drugs in the UK. They argue that criminalising drugs causes greater harm by excluding people from employment and putting them in prison where they're likely to be exposed to harder drugs. In fact, 56% of British people don't think that drug users should face charges, instead preferring them to be offered treatment. Less than 25% of people favour the criminalisation of drugs. It's commonly known that weed is a gateway drug which leads to harder drugs. The problem with this fact is it's not true. Research from the National Survey of Drug Use and Health shows that most people who try weed don't continue taking more drugs. In fact, most people who try weed don't even continue smoking weed. While the US, Portugal, the Netherlands, Spain, Switzerland, Czech Republic, Denmark and many other countries are all moving towards new drug policy, the UK seems oblivious to the global trend. Due to an online petition which attracted nearly 237,000 signatures, the issue of legalising cannabis in the UK was debated on October 12, 2015. However, the debate was ultimately unsuccessful. The government concluded that there are no plans to legalise cannabis as it would not address the harm to individuals and communities. But that was back in 2015. Is there more hope now? Unfortunately not. Earlier this year, Theresa May was asked about the potential of cannabis being legalised in the UK. She said that
the reason I don't believe in legislating making cannabis use legal is because of the impact that I see it having on too many people in terms of the drug use. And I think what we've seen is stronger forms now being used. I think it can have a real impact on people in terms of their mental health.
Also, she chose to perpetuate what we know to be a myth, that weed is a gateway drug.
But it can also, of course, lead to people on going onto harder drugs.
The Liberal Democrats ran in the 2017 election with a campaign promise that they would make weed legal. There are definitely people in the House of Commons from a number of parties who are in favour of legalising marijuana. But no matter how you look at it, the Prime Minister is very clear that she doesn't want to see the UK decriminalising cannabis usage. I think ultimately the UK will follow the rest of the world in legalising the use of weed medically, and then likely legalising it altogether. However, looking at the evidence, it seems unlikely that this will ever happen while Theresa May is still in office.